I can remember being home with my dad when I was a kid, and I was feeling pretty down one day, and he looked at me and he said, "Son, in this house, whenever a window slams shut, another door swings open." I thought, my dad's a pretty wise old guy, but he was a pretty poor carpenter. Today's video is a pretty simple and straightforward how to do it, replacing a wheel bearing hub assembly on a 2007 Chevy Malibu. These are pretty much the same all across GM's board, whether it's a Cobalt, Malibu, Traverse, Equinox. They're all about the same. The process, what I mean, it's pretty simple. The other part of this video is going to be a story time. And I'm going to share with you my recent experiences with a parts company that I've never dealt with before, known as Parts Geek. Now, the kind of tools you're going to need today, they're not specialty tools, they're pretty simple. What I'm going to use is a 14mm box end wrench, 36mm impact socket, and I'm going to use a 3/8 drive 13mm socket with a short extension. I'm also going to use a swivel for 1 bolt, and I'll show you that in a minute why. Some cutters and a little copper wire, 19mm socket, and of course you should always have a hammer. No matter what the project, you need to have your hammer. So after you've jacked the car up, you've got this side off the ground, got the wheel raised up, you're going to loosen the take the lugs off the hub. These are 19mm. Next, you're going to use a 14mm box end wrench, or you can use a driver, whatever works for you. I'm just going to use a wrench on this one. Break these loose. You have 2 caliper bolts right here, 14mm. And unless you live in the Rust Belt or park your vehicle in salt water, these should come loose fairly easily. Bolts should come out pretty quickly. Pull your caliper loose. You can hang this up there like that. You can also tie these up so they don't fall. And the reason I say that is you don't want to put a lot of stress on your brake hose. It's just a rubber hose. And you really don't want it hanging and supported by the weight of the hose. So what you can do is just take some wire and park that out of the way. Now I want to take a moment or two before I get too far on the repairs to share a tale of buyer's remorse, of woe, regarding the experience of ordering parts from Parts Geek. Now, the owner of this Malibu, he's on a budget, and I understand that. I mean, we all are to some extent. So I buy most of my parts locally when I can, support the community. But I also buy from retailers across the U.S. and some outside the U.S. But he pointed out to me, he said, "Hey, I can get this wheel bearing hub assembly for half the price." And he pointed me to the website, Parts Geek. Okay. So I went ahead and looked up the part there at Parts Geek, and it showed that they had it in stock. Stated that they could have it delivered within 3 to 4 working days. Okay. And shipping's free. All right. So I made the order, and that was on the 28th of the month. Now I got busy. There wasn't a big rush on the car. Time went by, and I just noticed, hey, this is the 8th of the month. We haven't gotten the wheel bearing hub assembly. So I went online and I checked the USPS tracking, and it showed that it had at first been delayed, and now it was lost. It had been hung up at a shipping distribution center. So I tried to call Parts Geek. Couldn't get through on their phone bank. But on their website, they have a chat for customer service. So I logged into that, and somebody responded pretty quickly.
Told them what was going on, and they said, all right, well, I'll put a notice into the shipping department, and they'll find out what's going on, and we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. All right. Well, 24 to 48 hours passed, and then some. I let it go until the 12th. So, it's been several weeks, and nothing's changed on the tracking. It's still lost in space. So I got a hold of them again, and they said that they were still looking into it, but he would re-notify the shipping department, the warehouse, and they would get back to me within 24 to 48 hours. What my question was, well, why can't you reach out to them now? I mean, aren't you there? And his response was, no, we have no way of contacting anyone from the company. Oh, so as far as I know, they're working remotely. They could be on a mountain in Istanbul or a basement in their parents' house in Connecticut. I don't know. Not real comforting. Well, then the 18th comes along. Now, by this time, you start to get the feeling you're just getting strung along, and the words escalation was mentioned. And what I mean by that, they said, well, this time we're going to escalate. And I don't know what the difference is between just finding out what happened and getting back to me and escalating it.
All right, I'm going to get you in a little closer. So right now, we're going to take the bolts. There's three 13 millimeter bolts back here. One right here under the CV joint. This one is hidden a little bit. You can kind of see it. That's where I'm going to use a swivel and a short extension. 13 millimeter are the sockets, and then there's another one on the other side. So there's three. The ones on the bottom are easy to get to. This one is not hard to get to. You just need an extension pop and just a swivel socket. Now, where was I? Oh, now every mechanic should have a hammer. All right, anyway, I've already smacked this to drive this loose. Once you've gotten everything cleared out of the way, here's your backing plate, dust cover. You're gonna break the hub and bearing assembly away. And just for comparison, this is the new one, and this is the old one that's coming off. All right. So some of these are easier than others. This one, I took about 5 swings with a hammer, tried to pry on it a little bit. And there's a couple ways you can do this. You can hit on the, well, you really shouldn't if it's if it's stuck on there very good, because you don't want to risk damaging these threads, and then you're going to end up putting a velocity joint in. Or you can just hit on the back of this, pry it, use some lubricant, some PB Blaster, and then you should be able to take it right off.
There was a time before the internet, and I was around then, and I did work in retail at some point, where corporations focused on customer service. And what I mean is, before the internet, a person would go in and buy a product or service. If they weren't happy with that product or service, they may complain. Yeah, and people did make stinks. But many times, and there were studies that showed this, the customer would simply leave and they'd never come back. You lost a customer and you didn't even realize why. But they would tell their friends, maybe 5 or 6 people, who would also tell 5 or 6 people. And that's how the word got spread, before Yelp and online reviews. Today we have platforms like Walmart, Facebook Marketplace, Etsy, eBay, Amazon, and so on, where if you have an issue with a seller, you can go to the platform, and they are many times more than eager to make things right. Now, however, that's opened the door for a lot of buyers to scam people too, and that's something else. But my point is, in this case, I'm dealing directly with Parts Geek, a company, one-to-one, and it showed me the stark difference in customer service today in a land of online chats and bots and faceless customer reps, and dealing with people face to face. Kind of lost my train of thought. I had to stop. I had a hen
that got out of her pen, and so I had to go save her before my dogs decided to save her for themselves. So anyway, I wanted to go back to this real quick. So you pull this off, and if you notice on the back, this is an LS. This is a bottom of the line level Malibu. So on an ABS system, the wheel hub assembly would have a black plastic clip back here. It would take up about half of the circumference, and it would have a wire with a clip that would go into the electronic system for your ABS. Two different style hubs and bearing assemblies. One will not fit the other system. So if you order these two, you also have to remember to look for, if you're doing one with non-ABS, look for an assembly for a non-ABS system. And they're not as common as you might think. Most systems by 2007 had anti-lock brakes on them. All right, so anyway, pretty much I've got this removed. Like I said, brakes are good, rotors are good. Don't have to do anything with that. I'm just gonna go ahead and reverse the process and start putting this back together. And I'll continue with my story. So, let's see, where was I? On the 24th, I contacted them again. Now, mind you, most people, after, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, they're getting pretty ticked. And I can say that I was too, but I'm busy. And this guy was content to save a few bucks and let the car sit. Okay. So it sat. Anyway, on the 24th, I got a hold of him again online, chat customer service, which is an oxymoron. And there had been no escalation. They had no record of it. All right, but they'll escalate it this time. And once again, I got the same BS. Somebody will be in contact with you within 24 to 48 hours. All right, well, I explained nobody has been in contact with me ever after being told that they would contact me within 24 to 48 hours. I should also add, every time that we ended the conversations, they would say, make sure and leave positive feedback if you were happy with your service. Well, there was no service. I didn't leave any feedback, but there was no service. At that point, I said, listen, I just want my money back. Now, this is what the response was, word for word. That's not going to happen. I just want a refund. It's been sitting in the distribution center. The UPS tracking shows that it's been sitting there or it's lost. You've already said that the warehouse is going to be putting a search or a trace in with the Postal Service, but they've not told me anything. You've already told me that the escalation was never started. I have no confidence in anything with Parts Geek at this point, and I want my money back. That's not going to happen. In this day and age of customer service, those are words that you normally don't say to somebody. If you're a mom and pop, I don't agree that the customer is always right. A lot of times the customer's flat out wrong. Let's see, where was I? Okay, I'm not getting my money back. I have no product. So I'm just sort of in limbo, I guess. And at that point, they said again, we'll get back with you. So on the 26th, I contacted them again, and I just flat out said I want my money back. And they said, well, we have nobody. We are not able to contact anybody in the company. My response was, well, then what exactly is the customer service part of what you were doing? Are you actually serving the customer, or are you just a buffer to kind of run interference? Are you the jam car so that we can't get any resolution until you either wear us down, or because nothing's happening? If you can't contact the warehouse, anyway, somehow I got through to them, and within about 15 minutes, they said they would refund the money, and it may show up within 24 to 48 hours on your credit card. All that said, to get to this, that took from the 28th of the previous month to the 27th of the next month. I drove to our parts house, which I'm not going to use their name because, well, you would know them. They're in every small town in America just about, and their logo is in green letters. And they had this on the shelf 20 minutes from my house. Of course it was $60 more, and saving 60 bucks costing 3.5 weeks. They had it on the shelf, and I was able to look at it and verify it's the right part. Parts Geek may have good parts, maybe. I don't know because I never got one. I can tell you their customer service sucks. Now back to work.
I wanted to add something to what I had been discussing earlier. At the point that I had asked for a refund the second time, I informed them that I was going to be posting a record of the events that took place up till that point online. The response from the customer service rep was, threats are not going to get your product delivered to you any faster. Threats will not get your product to you any faster. A threat is an either or. Either you do this or I'll do that. I wasn't making a threat. What I was doing was indicating to them that I was going to document the record of events as they occurred up till that point. It was up to them to finish the story how they chose. That's when I got the refund.
A couple quick thoughts before I close this video out. If for some reason you have to compress the brake pads in order to get these calipers on and off the rotor, make sure that you pump the brakes and set those back against the disc before you put it in gear and take off. You don't want to have any issues after you are done with the job. Number two is I'm not sure if this was a video on how to replace these hub and bearing assemblies or if it was a complaint session about Parts Geek. This is for the 101 class. Take pictures with your camera as you're taking things apart. So just in case, you can reference that when you're putting this stuff back together so you don't have to hustle back into the house and watch me again on the YouTube. I suppose this was either a video on hub and bearing assemblies and Parts Geek, or one or the other, or neither. That's up to you. I hope you got something out of it. But I can tell you this, if I sell you a product or service, I guarantee that if you return the unused portion of your product, I will return the unused portion of your money. No questions asked. Thanks for watching, folks. Leave your questions, your complaints, your comments, all of them below, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.